Hogstye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Combine Week on the Hogstye. We're not going to talk about the Combine because if you're listening to this and it's Thursday, the Combine starts today at 3. If it's Friday, you missed the first day, but it's not an exciting
We're going to do a live 8-hour telecast covering a day, covering all aspects of the Combine through
Right.
Sunday.
I've often fantasized if we one of us won the lottery, let's say, and we can just say, hey, I'm going to throw $1 million at this little podcast. None of us have to work. We can just goof off and do a podcast permanently.
$1 million is not enough to get me to retire permanently.
Okay, well, it would get you through like 2 or 3 years very comfortably.
Well, I mean, if we have to split it up, I mean, that's
right.
Even less.
Okay, it's $300,000 per person for like 2 years.
But then I have to get back into law afterwards, though. You're not. See, this is not
true.
good.
You would.
You know.
Fine. All right.
But I'll tell you what. You'll be able to buy maybe a free day a week out of me. We do something live all day long.
I think Alex is saying that if Elon Musk gifted us $200 million and we don't have to do anything each,
okay, $200 million each, and we don't have to do anything. Would you actually want to go to the Combine though? It seems very boring at some level.
I think it's far more boring than it appears.
Right.
On TV.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think the player thing that we all watch, like us nerds watch, is far more interesting on TV than it would be in the stadium.
Right. If you're just sitting there in the stadium, like 50 feet at best from the
who the heck are these people? We have no analysis of it. We don't know what they ran. We don't know any of their numbers. I think it would actually be very difficult it'd be very boring to watch.
And you're just quietly watching, like 80-year-old scouts with stopwatches.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even know who these people are necessarily. I mean, I think what I would want to do is bring my tablet so I can watch the coverage while I'm sitting there in the stadium. That's what I think we'd have to do.
The worst part is you're in Indianapolis, which is the most boring NFL city there is.
I did see a story that Indianapolis is contemplating having to fight to keep the Combine.
Oh, really?
I saw a headline. I should have read it. I didn't read it.
I'm sure you got places like LA with SoFi that wants it. And it'd be a great site to have it, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
Especially that time of year.
Well, I think it would be better to have it somewhere in middle America, just from a travel perspective, probably, for everybody.
Sure.
But certainly, I think every major city in the country would make a pitch for it, if it was really on the market.
And let's be honest, it really doesn't need to be in a football stadium. You could do it in any expo center for the most part.
Well, they do need the place to do the medical. They need a weight room.
That's true. You need a weight room.
Need an athletic facility. It doesn't necessarily need to be in SoFi Stadium.
Right.
But if you're going to do the cameras and the crews and all of that, it does need to be in a place that's big enough to host a major television network.
Right. And it does need to be indoors just because you can't have rain.
Well, they're also still going to want them to be on the turf, too, at minimum, just so they do all the drills and everything. You don't want them just
We can pull a turf into anywhere, Dave. That's actually pretty easy.
The more I think about it, I think the more it does need to be in an NFL stadium somewhere, actually.
Yeah, probably.
Locker rooms,
here's the thing. You don't want to do it in Vegas because then you're just bringing a bunch of 21-year-old, soon-to-be NFL superstars to a city where they're all going to get arrested.
Things sure to go horribly wrong.
Right. Yeah. Right. So you don't want to do that.
I mean, that they might want to do it, the students, but no, the NFL probably doesn't.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The NFL does not.
Well, right there, you just made a pitch to keep it in Indianapolis then, because there ain't nothing to do out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably good because some of these players are really, really stupid. I don't know if people understand this.
Well, they do get hit in the head a lot.
The number of people who show up with drugs in their bloodstream for the NFL Combine just continues to. The fact that it's more than zero continues to amaze me.
If it's 1 of 200, all right, I can. But from what I've heard, it's always higher than like a handful.
Even one. This is the biggest moment of your life. Put down the weed. for a month. I don't know how long it stays in their bloodstream, but it's more than
about
like
a
half
month.
an hour.
You're right.
Yeah, right. So just put down the weed, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
And it really says something about if you're stupid enough to not do that, I don't really want to draft you because you're a moron and I don't want you on my team.
Yeah. Well, and look, I think the era of colleges letting players get away with absolutely everything might be less than it was in the 80s and 70s.
Darius Guy says hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Johnny Manziel.
Well, but they let Darius get away with it.
Yes.
Until he got busted, and what they ended up doing, if I recall, was they erased him from LSU's entire existence.
Yeah, kind of did. I saw he was making a comeback somewhere, and I was like, really?
I looked him up just a few days ago, which is what made me think of it. He was with some one of your little leagues, Alex, only you watch, for like a month, and they cut him.
Oh, he couldn't even make it in one of these weird leagues?
No.
Oh, that's funny. All right, well, so real quick, for those of you who do watch all of the Combine, which you should have jobs, you shouldn't be watching the Combine at your job. But the defensive linemen and linebackers, they do their thing Thursday. If you're listening on Thursday, that's today. It's defensive backs and tight ends on Friday. Quarterbacks, receivers, and running backs are on Saturday, and then O-line on Sunday. I'm surprised O-line's on Sunday and not like your DBs and tight ends.
Oh, I mean, what's best for TV?
Yeah.
Probably, the O-line's probably not as many people are going to watch and understand.
Right.
And so, yeah, you want to bury them. When did you say O-line is?
Sunday.
Yeah, see, that's odd.
Those should be flipped. NFL, I'm making a scheduling note. You should listen to me. Flip those.
You bury that on a Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. Because everyone's a sucker for the 40 time, and defensive backs always have good 40 times, so it's worth watching. All right, but that's the schedule. I'm sure we'll talk about it next week once we know what people's measurables are. Some dude's gonna rock it to the top, and we'll go from there. So, if you didn't hear that jump cut, that's great. Let's talk about Johnathan Allen, guys, because Johnathan Allen's been given permission by the team to seek a trade. Obviously, the longest tenured star player, I think, on the team. Maybe if you want to count Tressway, but Tressway is technically a free agent. But Allen, a first round pick. I think he's going into year 9. Is that right? Maybe 10?
Well, so Allen was originally signed in 2017, so this would be year 8 then.
Oh, year 8. And they're letting him seek a trade now.
Actually, this would be year 9, right? Is that right?
He'd be through year 8, yes.
I
forget what year he was drafted.
It's 17, and so he's finished his 8th year with the team.
I always forget about the 0, Yeah, so Allen is being given permission to seek a trade. They assume... Here's the thing that always annoys me with the NFL. Anytime someone's like, they're getting permission to seek a trade, when does that ever not end up just a cut? Like, how often is a guy given permission to seek a trade and he's actually traded? Everyone just waits it out, generally speaking.
I don't know. I mean, there could be a trade. Maybe he finds an organization he wants, I
mean, I'm sure there's plenty of organizations he wants and organizations
and I think it's
him.
The right thing to give him a chance. We don't have to cut you right now. So let him find a trade partner.
Okay.
Maybe it won't work, but so since this came up from a salary cap perspective, he's got a $22.3 million cap hit in 2025. His dead cap is low. This is why it's him and not Payne. For those of you wondering, it's not because they think Dron Payne's a better player necessarily. Dron Payne has an even bigger cap hit, but he has a humongous dead cap.
Right.
They could actually trade him at about a $10 million, little under $10 million savings, but they can trade Allen on a pre-June 1 trade and save $16 million.
Yeah,
so
it's a pretty sizable chunk of his contract they can save. And I think and you mentioned Payne, they'd save 10 or so. I remember seeing somewhere,
but that's a trade. They can't cut. Payne is uncuttable. Whereas
right.
Allen
If you cut him, you're not saving a penny. Yeah,
No.
I think it actually costs you like 300 or something. It's a small number, but it costs you more to cut him than to keep him.
Well, I mean, well, no, it would. He's got a $26.1 million cap hit, and his dead cap is 25.8 million. So they would save like
they'd save 300. Okay,
300. Yeah,
I switched it in my head.
Either way, it's chump change by NFL standards.
Right. It's not even a practice squad guy anymore.
It is not. What is a practice squatter? Actually, that is what practice squatter. But
oh yeah, you're right. Okay, you could sign a practice squad.
Certainly
That's not
certainly not useful.
No, not helpful to do that. No. So, obviously, I think we all saw this coming with Allen. It's a shame because all he's done has been a good leader for the team, good locker room guy.
Up until last year, he wasn't last year, and in 2023 and 2024, he was a bit the opposite of great.
Right.
Yeah. He's gotten hurt. He
had a bad attitude for a while. He had a bad attitude. And who can blame him? I mean, they had a horrible coach and all that stuff we all lived through in 2013. But this year, he did nothing. This year, of note all year long. I mean, I don't remember.
No, he was hurt most of the season.
We talked about him like 3 times. Yeah. And that was it.
Yeah, he didn't do a lot because he wasn't on the field. I hope he finds somewhere that he can, continue his career because I think overall he is a good dude. Like he's, so you hope maybe he goes somewhere in the AFC, go to, I don't know, Kansas City and try and help them rebuild whatever they're doing. I don't know.
Actually, I'd be curious if they give Tennessee a call because their linebacker Landry, they've been wanting to trade. They're roughly right about the same age.
Yeah.
Both prior Pro Bowl players, and we need a linebacker. They could use defensive line help. I mean, maybe you can work something out there. I mean, I think Landry a little more of a value player. So you'd probably have to do like a pick swap type of move where you give Tennessee a higher round pick and you take their lower round pick. I mean, I know fans will talk about how great Johnathan Allen is and everything, but personally, I've never seen the greatness that people talk about with him. He's, in my eyes, always been very, very inconsistent. I've always seen more of Daron Payne, more in the plays and more of an impact than Johnathan. So, I mean, I guess Johnathan was like 3rd or 4th year, he had a really good impact year, and I get that, and right before his contract and got the extension, and we were all happy about it, but too inconsistent, and him and Payne are like identical players in my mind, and having them both on the field at the same time, they're both good pass rushers, but they both have weaknesses in the run game, and it hurts us up the middle.
Never forget how atrocious Washington's run defense was, is, and currently is,
and has been for years.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think they masked it a little better when they built a scheme around those guys, but the current scheme just doesn't fit them. No. And look, Washington's got a lot of needs. Trading him for a linebacker is not a bad idea because I think realistically they need to sign probably 3 or 4 linebackers in free agency in the draft. There's some because they have 2 on the roster realistically.
Not realistically, they have 2 on the roster.
I couldn't remember if they had like a practice squad.
Thank you, Lulu and Jordan McGee, and that's it.
Okay, they don't have anyone who's practice squad caliber.
No, not unless I haven't checked this week, but no, before this week, no, they didn't.
So they need 4 guys because you realistically want to have 6 altogether at least. More for training camp, but like final roster, you want about 6. So yeah, like trading for a guy is not a bad idea, honestly.
You know what's amazing is who knew Johnny Newton wasn't a horrible draft pick? All of a sudden, that guy has a job here.
I mean, look, I think when they drafted him, a lot of people said this means they're going younger and getting rid of these guys.
I just remember hating the pick.
I still
turns out I might have been. Yeah, I maybe it's more. Maybe I was wrong.
Well, I think Johnny Newton kind of fits more what Dan Quinn's defense wants to be. I think I still don't even think that him and Payne together on the field is an ideal match. I mean, you want that Jordan Davis, that guy that could be in the middle, can stuff just maintain, contain that center of that defensive line, push the pocket in, and disrupt the run game. I mean, that's what we need. That's what we lack.
They want guys who take up multiple offensive linemen and are more space eaters. They don't want pass rushers, which is what Payne is, and like you said, Allen is. Both Payne and Allen are good at bull rushing one guy. That's their skill, and that's not what Dan Quinn, I think, needs. So
right. And the one thing you saw with Newton at the back end of the year is that he was starting to be that disruptor in the middle, but he just wasn't getting the volume of play to get to get himself going through the course of the game. Oh, now he will. So
yeah. So that it kind of segues into one of our position group breakdown things we have on the schedule, and that is to talk about rookie edge rushers. Speaking of the defensive line and needing to rebuild a little bit. And of course, our buddy Nolan from Tampa wrote the article this week about the free agent options at defensive edge or edge rushers. Really, it's kind of an interesting thing. So many guys just get listed as an edge rusher. It's hard to say, are they a 3-4 guy, a 4-3 guy? I don't think that it matters less and less now, I guess. But if you go to the website, you can find his full article. But I'll go through some of the names here. There's one guy on this I'm very high on if he somehow falls, but I don't think he will. All right, so
you said free agent, by the way. This is the draft preview.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say free agent?
Yeah.
Okay, draft pick. My bad. All right, so your first rounders. You got Abdul Carter out of Penn State. I'm sure Dave can talk to us about that for an hour. You have James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee, Mikael Williams from Georgia, Mike Green from Marshall, Nick Scourton. I hope I'm saying that. Scourton, Texas A&M, and then Shamar Stewart from A&M as well. So two Texas A&M guys in there as possible first round prospects. I'll tell you both. The guy I'm excited by, and he had a good Senior Bowl, was Mike Green, from Marshall. He kind of had a really good senior season. I know it's a smaller school, but to me, he's just a good pure pass rusher type.
They really need a talented edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
It's my first instinct was, please don't draft another defensive lineman, yet another one in round one. But the truth is, it's a team need. And I think, Alex, I know you have my beliefs. Dave, I guess I'd like to hear yours. I've always been a believer that you can't just drafting purely the best player available is kind of dumb, and that you need to have it organized somewhat, at least somewhat, by team needs. I think it needs to be a factor in the equation. And in this case, they need edge rushers.
Mm-hmm.
And so a guy like this, depending on where they fall, and when Washington picks at 29, I wouldn't be hugely surprised that they did this. Although I think the biggest need for the team is definitely offensive line in terms of the draft. But it wouldn't surprise me. And so they drafted a Mike Green, it might be great.
Oh yeah, if he somehow falls, absolutely.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the draft, I'm pretty sure the majority of general managers and the ones that are the most successful, they absolutely have the list of obviously team needs. They have the list of the best player available. Teams like for instance Philadelphia, they could do best player available and be fine. But when you're dealing with a roster like what we have right now, you're going to have in the equation the best available player, but you're going to have that team need. If your best available player, let's just go quarterback. You're saying that your best available player is a quarterback. You're not taking a quarterback.
Right.
Just like we're not going to take a defensive tackle if the best player available is a defensive tackle. It doesn't make any sense.
And I have been in the scouting room of an NFL team, and so I can tell you what this particular was not Washington. It's another team that I represented, so I don't want to disclose who it was because there were more than one team too. But this particular team had a room and the walls were covered from ceiling to floor with little tiny magnets that had a tiny write-up of each player, and it was ranked by position. And so they knew all the position, they had a ranking of 1 through a billion for every position,
Right.
in college football. And so then they would take that list and put together their draft order based on a combination of what do we need versus who's the best. And so the idea here is if there's like the next freaking Lawrence Taylor's out there,
Right.
way up there, they might grab him. But if it's close, I think they're going to lean towards the position of need. Dave's example with the quarterback is a perfect example. What if it's a quarterback? Well, we don't need a quarterback. So they're just going to not do it. So I think the truth of the matter is most teams not named the Green Bay Packers do it like that. That is what my observation was. Green Bay seems to be BPA, period.
Yeah.
But
right.
Here's what I'll say, though, as a caveat to that whole thing. With Washington picking very late in the draft, and we haven't been here in a while, in a very long time.
Long time, not a while. It's been a really
very long time. It's been a long time since they were picking the late 20s.
Like 33 years.
Yes, I was still wearing Superman underwear.
You're still wearing it today, though, Alex. That's not
well, but now it's boxers. Then it was, tighty whities, different, totally different cut. But what I was gonna say is, you can't bank on as many positions. Like you can't bank on a 29th pick being that's where we'll find our left tackle. You know what I mean?
Not necessarily. Yes, I agree with you.
So you definitely need to plan to fill a lot of your baseline needs in free agency this year. And it doesn't mean you just go BPA more this late. It's just you just can't say we're going to find our guy in the draft for this position, because you just don't know who's going to be there at 29.
I think I agree with you. I sense what you're saying, because if you're sitting there at 29 and you have three positions, you have best player available.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sorry, three positions of need, but those three positions, the best available at that time, have like mid to late second round grades.
Right.
You're not taking them at 29. Now you might make a move and move out of the first round and get a little further back, maybe acquire more draft assets. So at that point, like, well, you know what, we'll address this position in need later, and we're going to just probably go more the best player available, because you have higher graded players at that spot. You're also not going to reach. So you got to be careful not reaching, and that's the balance that GMs have to look at.
They have a list, and then in that list, they have estimates of where these players should be ranked. Right. And so the smart teams are not going to reach too much.
Yeah.
But they're going to basically go take the highest player on their list that fits the best for the draft number they're at. That's how it works.
Hopefully there's at least one guy there who's within like 5-10 spots of where you think you are.
Yeah, I don't know what the range is, but yes.
Now, with you being in that draft room like that, what's the earliest? If I ask this question right, what's the earliest that a good team? I'm talking about a good run organization will draft a player. Like if you send a 29, will they pick someone who's ranked a full round early to take a guy, or they have limitations?
They didn't get that far into it with me. I was the lawyer, and they're not going to get that much.
I was curious,
No, I didn't get. No, I didn't. Yeah. They didn't get into that with me.
Yeah, I don't think they. I'm sure they wouldn't even be able to tell you realistically.
And also, it was early too. When I was in that room, it was like March or something. It wasn't. It was like well before the draft, so they might not even have had their list put together by that time.
I also think it's a little more amorphous than we always assume. It's not like a hard and fast. This guy's number 13 on my board. He's number 13.
I think for some team it is that hard and fast.
You think so? Okay.
Yes.
All right, maybe. We all know some people. The interesting thing more to me is always how different some of these guys rank players. Like we all know Ron Rivera had no idea what he was doing and was just ranking guys.
Well, let me be clear too. That was the college scouting room. Okay.
Right.
That's not necessarily. That wasn't the draft war room because it was too early in the year. It was the college scouting room, and the college scouts were ranking these players. The draft is not. They're doing the draft list somewhere else. Okay, I just saw the way they do the scouting stuff.
All right, let me read off some of the names from the day 2 prospects. This By the way, this is where it seems like all the weird names are, so this is going to be fun. Kyle Kennard, Princely Unomininen from Ole Miss. I don't know.
What a name that is.
Yeah. Landon Jackson, JT Tuimolo. I
think you're being a racist here, Alex. Yeah. You're not pronouncing
Donovan
right.
Izirkiru from Boston College, Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, TJ Sanders from South Carolina, Jordan Birch from Oregon, Braden Swintonson from LSU, Josiah Stewart from Michigan, Jared Ivey from Ole Miss, and then Antoine Powell Ryland from Virginia Tech.
There are a bunch of weird names on that list.
There are a lot of weird. Look, football's just getting weirder and weirder names. Different people come from different parts of the world, and you send your fatter kids go play defensive line. You know,
these are theoretically edge rushers, though they shouldn't be too fat.
No, these guys. Well, so that's what's interesting. You know, a lot of the edge rushers these days, you can kind of tell who's going to be a 3-4 guy versus a 4-3 guy just by the weight. Still, right? Like if a guy's 290, he's going to play in the 3-4 base.
Yes.
You know, so I will say it looks like with these second rounders, you have more 4-3 style guys in the 240s, 250s, 260s. You know, you got a couple like TJ Sanders out of South Carolina. He's listed at 284. That's a 3-4 guy. So don't consider him.
That's a fat guy.
Yeah, he's a big boy. But in all likelihood, Washington's going to grab a defensive end in the first 3 rounds because they need one, and they need to rebuild some youth on the defensive line. So I would assume. I wouldn't be shocked if you see one of these guys actually on the roster.
I mean, the three names that no one from Tampa listed is Tylik Williams, Tumalo, and Sawyer, Jack Sawyer. Those are the names that he mentions here. Mm-hmm. So keep an eye out for those.
Yeah, all bigger guys too, I think, which is interesting. I mean, they're not huge, but they're on that side. All right, then you have a bunch of day 3 guys, of course. I'm trying to look to see if I recognize any of these names just from casually watching here and there. Not really. You have Peebles out of Virginia Tech, another guy who's 6 feet tall, 289 pounds.
He may be 6 feet wide as well.
Yeah, that's a round player right there.
He's a perfect circle.
Yes.
Shaped like an egg.
Ashton Gillott from Louisville, Tyler Barron from Miami, Elijah Roberts from SMU, Varian Sorrell from Texas, Tyler Batty from BYU, RJ Oben from Notre Dame. Oh, here's a fun one. Oluwafemi Olajo from UCLA. I'm letting you
get through all these names just to see how many you screw up because nobody knows who any
Tonka Hemingway.
That's about 90% of them.
I'm batting 500. Thank you very much. David Walker, Chaz Chambliss, Ja Joyner, Ahmed Hassan from Boise State, Savon Jones from LSU, David Van from NC State, Jasheen Davis from Wake Forest, and then Jared Harrison Hunt from SMU.
One of these people, their parents named him after a toy truck.
Yes, they did.
Tonka Hemingway. Yep. I have no idea who any of these
their
people...
last name is a great author, though.
Yeah, I have no idea who any of these people are.
Nor do I.
Yeah, nor does anybody. We provide those so you can maybe keep an eye out on for them. They're almost certainly going to draft 1, maybe 2 of these players.
Yeah. They're going to get a defensive end. It's a need. They don't need interior guys, even if they lose John Allen. They have plenty of good interior guys. This currently on the roster. So get yourself an edge rusher. I still say go for Mike Green. That's my number 1 guy. Like when I started doing mock drafts and watching guys' highlight films, that's the guy who was like, oh no, I like that guy.
And for those of you who don't understand this, Alex does 800 of them this off season.
I do. It's how I start learning who guys are. You know,
I usually have one. It's usually this is my official mock draft. I haven't done it yet.
No. Well, you're smart. You wait till after the combine.
Yeah, of course.
Because Steve only drafts based off of 40 times. That's his favorite thing.
That's not my favorite thing.
By the way, when it comes to the 40 times, everyone obsesses with it. Go look at the list of the guys with the top 40 times.
It's a lot of them don't make it in the NFL.
Oh yeah, it's 1 in 10.
Yeah.
Most of them are complete busts.
I mean, that Darrell Green guy made it, but
right. That's one of those 1 in 10 guys.
I think Darrell was a lot bigger chance than 1 in 10.
Yeah, it's pretty low though. It's ridiculous how
Darrell was like 1 in 100, 1 in 2. Well, he was once of a lifetime.
Sure, but remember, now the guy who Kansas drafted, Xavier Worthy, he was, I think, the official fastest 40 of now, right?
Yeah.
He's decent rookie year. But the guy who had it before that was the guy in Cincinnati, Ross. He did nothing.
Yeah. No.
Nothing his whole career.
There's one guy in this draft that I think would be the absolute best fit for this team. Would be Michael Williams out of Georgia. He's a fantastic edge rusher. He's not obviously not the top edge rusher in the draft, obviously, but what he might be the best edge rusher against the run game in this entire draft, and that's the guy that I think would fit perfectly in this defense that so desperately needs help in the run game. If he's available right around 29, I could see him being that guy right there, and I don't see them passing on him. I mean, he's just his profile. He's an athletic freak. He really, I mean, he's a great off first step, high leverage off the off the edge. He's like that second tier, top tier guys, if that makes any sense. In the back end of that top tier, floating around the second tier guy, number one on that list. But he's a guy that I will look for myself.
There's a lot of good edge rushers in this draft. A lot. Like, you can see Tampa lists 6 or 7 there for or 6. It looks like for first round prospects. That's a pretty deep draft at any position. So, all right. So that does it for edge rushers. We should move on. We got to talk about the free agents because we got 2 position groups that we're kind of covering at once. So Steve, did you want to take the lead on the free agent class for defensive backs?
So no, we have a piece on this also written by Nolan from Tampa. He's knocking out all his early in the offseason here. So to set the stage here, Washington has on the roster 3 corners: Allen George, Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sandersill. Allen George is a practice squad futures level type player. Lattimore we all know about. Sandersill we all know about. And then the safety realm, and from a salary cap perspective, Marshawn Lattimore is making a truckload of money. He's got an $18 million cap hit. No dead cap though, and so he could be cut. Sandersill's on a rookie deal, and so total they've got about $20 million into corners. And that is about hair under 7% of the cap space. So they could afford to bring in probably a mid-tier level player. I'd say they probably don't want to have 2 of them with Lattimore on there. So that's corners and safeties. They have a bunch of safeties, but they're in a world of hurt pretty much. Percy Butler, Dominique Hampton, Jartavius Martin, meaning Quan Martin, Ben Nickel, Tyrell Owens, Jeremy Reeves. Jeremy Reeves is basically safety or a special teamer.
Right.
We all love him, but
most of these guys are good special teams guys.
Yes. Percy Butler, disappointment. Dominique Hampton had his moments, back up. Quan Martin miraculously hasn't totally sucked.
He's proven to be a solid starter. I don't think he's Pro Bowl caliber. A lot of people seem to be high on him.
One of the few things Ron Rivera didn't totally crap the bed on.
Right.
Ben Nickel, Tyrell Owens, the backups. And so they need help at both of these as well. And so the top tier guys, according to no one from Tampa, DJ Reed, corners who we're talking about, DJ Reed, Charvarius Ward, Carlton Davis, Rasul Douglas, Byron Murphy, Asante Samuel Jr. Those are your top ones. Right off the top of my head, a lot of these guys are going to be big money, and I just don't think they're going to do a second big money corner.
Yeah, I think right. You've got to be realistic and think they're going to go with the next tier down types.
Right. And so that enter such luminaries as Jonathan Jones, Mike Hilton, Stephon Gilmore, who's old, which is why he's not on the top tier list. Jordan Lewis, Dante Jackson, Kristen Fulton. So that's corners.
Right.
Do we want to stop there? You want to have
we can briefly. Look, I think, and I'm kind of just starting to scan where Spotrac does that great thing where they put market value for guys,
right?
Which is a nice way.
I don't know how accurate that is, but it's a ballpark at least.
It at least gives you something to play off of.
Right.
I think it's realistic to say that this team could afford to spend maybe less than 10 million, but between 5 and 10 on a good second corner.
It's not going to be more than 10.
No. But
if they decided Marshawn Lattimore sucks and needs to go, then that's a different story. But I don't think Adam Peters is going to give up on.
They're going to stick with him.
They're not going to give up on the guy they traded for.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
I think he was a disappointment though, and they ought to consider it.
Right. So like Tre'Davious Ward is projected to make 15 million. They're not going there, realistically. DJ Reed, what do they have here? 14.7. So again, but a guy like Jeff Okudah, who's been playing with the Texans for 5 years, not great but solid. He could be a decent option. Here's where I'm really at. It's really a question of, do you think Mike Sanders still can be your number 2 corner, and then kick into the slot when you play 3?
It's not the highest and best use for him. Could he?
Okay.
He was. What's the word? I mean, he was a pleasant surprise last year because we all thought he was kind of limited because of his size.
Sure.
He played well, but a guy like that, I think, if he does have to go up against some 6'4" number 1 receiver, I still think it's going to go well. So, I mean, I think what I would rather do is get another good corner, bring him in, and keep Sanders still in the slot. I think would be the best use for him.
I kind of agree with that overall. But again, it's how much you're willing to spend on that guy.
Well, again, maybe it's another case where they maybe draft somebody.
Yeah,
because I don't know. Go ahead, Dave.
I think if you look at a guy, you can look at a guy who Tampa Bay traded Carlton Davis to Detroit, who helped out that secondary last year. He had a broken jaw and ended his season last year. I think he'd be a really nice compliment to Marshawn Lattimore if you want to push Sanders still to the inside. 28 years old. I don't think he's going to break the cap for you. I think he's right around that mid-second tier. He's not really, or mid of the second tier. He's not quite top end of that second tier, but he is a guy that's smart. He understands the game. He's really good against the run. I think he wouldn't be a liability out there, unlike our corners on all the way around the end. But as far as that, I would also look at bringing in Ignabu, bringing him back. I thought he was very effective in the last half of last year, and I thought he really played a good role, especially in the slot when he had to play in the slot. So I think the combination of those two moves right there, I think, is what direction I think they should go anyway.
I wouldn't have an issue with him bringing him back.
I don't think he's a starter.
I don't think no, but like if he's your 4th corner,
sure.
I think he's a good, capable option. I do think who's you mentioned Carlton Davis. Now I just quickly looked. He's listed at making about 15 million too. So I do wonder if that's just going to be too high.
Really? That much? I didn't think he'd be.
That's what they're listing as market value. Again, like we're talking about.
I could see him probably like a 1-year prove it type deal because it's not like he was great at Tampa Bay. I mean, he played well. I could see him looking for a 1-year friendly deal, like around $8 million, to kind of get a bigger contract afterwards. I don't think he's gonna get that. Myself personally, I don't know. I could be wrong though.
I would be curious. Asante Samuel Jr. plays for the Chargers. He got hurt last year, missed most of the season. That's a guy who I might look at as an option.
I mean, he's certainly a visible name that people would recognize.
Sure, but like he was playing every snap for the Chargers as
it's
a defense.
Just these guys are just too expensive though. No one mentions in his column that Charvarius Ward is linked to Adam Peters because he was with the 49ers at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, he also mentions Jordan Lewis was in Dallas, so Dan Quinn knows him. So those are two to maybe keep an eye on. Obviously, Lewis is way less expensive than Charvarius Ward.
Mm-hmm.
They've got him at more than 15, as you said.
So what's his age, Charvarius Ward?
29.
29. Both those guys are 29, aren't they?
Yeah.
And for anybody else, Stephon Gilmore is 35. He's way too old. Just forget it.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind old guy like that coming in to be like your fourth or fifth guy. Just
not as a big starter. Okay, so safeties. So
let's pop over.
They've got Jartavius Martin. Quan Martin is a starter. So the top of the class here for free agents: Javon Holland, Justin Reed, Jeremy Chin, Cameron Bynum, Trevon Milring, and the kind of backup crew here: Xavier Woods, Julian Blackman, Jordan Poyer, Eric Murray, Will Harris, Richie Grant, Justin Simmons. Off the top of my head, I mean, I think you go all in to get Jeremy Chin back.
Yeah. Absolutely. That would be my. He's actually probably my number one priority signing on the defense.
Right.
Not to disrespect the Bobby Wagners of the world, but Chin's got a long term. At least for the next couple of years, you could see him being the starter here for the next 4 seasons or so.
And Bobby Wagner's 100. I mean, he's
that's
what Hall of Famer, all of that, but Jeremy Chin has a future.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Right. I don't even think we need to talk too much about it. I mean, they need to make that happen.
Yeah. And he's not going to cost you a lot either. You're going to give him a longer term deal, probably for $1 million more than you paid him last year, and you're fine.
Right. That's exactly right. So that's safeties, kids.
Yep. That's safeties.
So this column will be out either Friday or Saturday, depending on how fast Dave Earl writes.
Right. All right. So why don't we move on to our next topic? And this one's a little bit of a fun one. And that is that the NFL is going to be using electronic sensors in the footballs to help with ball placement and seeing if teams actually got a first down on 4th and inches or whatever. Stop the Eagles from cheating and whatnot.
Sensors in balls sounds questionable.
Sounds like it could be painful.
It does.
Yeah. But this is something. Steve was making fun of my love of the UFL. They've been doing this for about a year and a half now.
Is there anything that the USFL does that's wrong, Alex, in your mind?
Oh, the USFL? Yeah, they did a lot of things wrong. But
what I meant the UFL. Right. I meant the UFL. So are they right in everything?
No, not everything. Their marketing strategies are awful.
99% of the time.
Their marketing strategies are awful. The fact that they don't have independent ownership groups and are still going with a single collective, single owner group, terrible plan.
I mean, are they aware that you're their only fan?
Me and 10,000 other people.
Only fan, Alex.
Yeah, only the only Defenders fan of the 10,000 people there. That beer snake they have that goes from the bottom of the stadium to the top every game?
Yes.
I'm the only one drinking and making that beer snake.
I only know it because you've said it 100 times.
Well,
I drink all 2,000 beers at a game.
Well, it sounds like you need to make an OnlyFans account then, don't you?
OnlyFans, Alex.
OnlyFan.
Subscribe. Yeah. How much does OnlyFans cost a month?
No, it doesn't. You get paid. That's the whole point.
Yes.
Well, but people need to subscribe to you for you to get paid. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
How much is your account going to be worth? How much are you going to charge?
Oh, how much am I going to charge? Nickel.
That's not going to build up very fast.
No, but I'll do foot fetish stuff too. It'll grow.
What the heck?
There's a lot of sick people out there, Steve.
Look, so this electronic ball thing, before we got totally sidetracked into whatever we're talking about, I'm not sure what it is. I love this idea. I think it's wonderful. They should have done this a long time ago.
Yes.
And I don't understand what the holdup is. I'm generally speaking for getting rid of, manual human refs and umpires in every sport you can.
Electronic Strike Zone Pro.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yep, me too.
And the first down thing, absolutely. A goal line.
Yeah.
Did the ball crack the plane? I don't know, but the sensor does.
Here's the thing that people will be annoyed by, and you shouldn't. The change gain's still going to be there because you need a way for the players to actually see where the first down marker is. They don't see the yellow line that we see on TV. You got to remember that.
Right.
So the guy standing there with the stick.
The other thing is, though, also that the ref is still going to have to determine when forward progress halted. So the sensor is going to know that it crossed the line, but somebody's going to have to determine where the ball placement itself is, and that's not going to change.
Right. There's some room for error, but you're lessening it. I think we're all for it.
Yes.
All right. Last topic that we had on the plate. This is a fun one that now comes out annually, I guess, and that is that the NFL Players Association does a survey of all the players to come up with a grade system and rank all the teams on what they call it their ownership grades. Even though there's a single grade for the owner in the ownership grades, this is a ranking of head coach, how the team does with travel, strength, training staff, treatment of teams' families, players' families, food, weight room, nutrition, the training room, and then the locker room. So a lot of different categories. They just do a little poll, and then you get like a grade point average. If you don't remember this, and most of you probably do because it was a pretty sore subject, last time they did this, Washington came in 32nd place out of 32 teams. This was a week after Harris brought the team, I believe, or maybe a month after Harris brought the team. So it was really a grade of Dan Snyder at that time. And Washington's made big improvements very quickly. They are now 11th on the list. So that's a nice jump. I can give you the grades real quick. Their head coach grade A+, travel A, owners A, strength and conditioning coach A, training staff and treatment of families are a B+, as is food. The weight room got a B-, the nutritionist a C+, the training room got a C+, and the locker room's their only bad grade with an F. Not much you can do about the locker room until you replace the stadium or the practice facility. So I guess that's not unexpected.
Allow me to tell you all why these are dumb. So the ownership grades on this thing, there are 13 of 32 teams got A grades. And then 1, 2, 3, then it's 7 Bs. And so of the 32 teams, fully 20 of them are above average, which is how a real distribution curve works, okay?
Generally speaking, no.
Right. And so I think it's not really genuine to say these ownership groups are really at an A level like this. I think if there was, this is not an objective evaluation, but you could have a third party evaluate this, and I think you'd have a little bit more traditional bell curve for this. And so who are the teams that have the best? I think it's safe to say that in the case of Washington, they probably almost certainly had the biggest jump of any. They would have had to.
Absolutely, yeah.
And sure, I think the ownership group probably does deserve an A for all, what they came from to what they turned into. Absolutely. But I do not think anybody should take seriously a grading system in which
it's more not than scientific. Half it's a player
average.
Survey.
I know, but I think the players' surveys, even though they're anonymous, are biased.
Well, and I think, there is obviously bias in it. It's interesting to me because, like the New England Patriots, their owner got a D. So I do think team success plays into. Do we see our owner as good? Probably a big factor in your success is that.
Well, take a look at the D's and F's, okay?
Yeah.
Buccaneers, Steelers, Patriots, Cardinals, Panthers, Jets. Jets.
Right.
Those are D's. The Jets have an F. Steelers is a different one. Patriots is a different one. But Cardinals, Panthers, Jets.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
not surprising.
No,
not at all. The Steelers is a surprise. The Patriots is a surprise. I'm not. It's not unexpected to me, or it's not surprising to me that like the Rams get a C for ownership. It's surprising to me that the Raiders got an A. That their players like playing for Weirdo Davis there.
That's like I said. It's not. This is not a true third party. As down the middle analysis as you could get. It's just not. I just don't think this carries a lot of weight.
No, I'm sure. Right. Well, so
I think it's entertainment more than anything else.
It is, but I think when this came out last year and Josh Harris saw it, he said, "Well, we got to do something about this." So I think it has a net positive for the players if they can go to a good owner and say, "Here's your problems. Can you fix them, please?" And if it's a good owner, they respond. I think that's what happened here in Washington.
I don't know. I mean, they won.
They won,
period.
True.
That I think that's all that matters. Are they players happy, and they're all happy when they win?
Absolutely. The one funny thing is obviously this is also agreed when it says like head coach, it's the last year team coach. It's not the current one because the Cowboys had an A for their head coach. I don't think they have an A anymore. So they might be dropping down on the list below Washington next year if they do this again, which they probably will because I'm sure it's not hard to have players just
the tiny tyrant sees this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is he still obsessing over this stuff?
Well, there was that article about it. Remember?
Yeah, a while ago. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Where he's very bitter. He's just so bitter.
Good.
That's karma.
We put him on the plate.
Right.
We put him on the plate for Passover because he's just such a bitter herb. So
karma's a tough mistress.
Yeah, it is. It's good to see.
I just don't take these grades very seriously. That's what I'm saying. It appears to me that it's not an accurate true evaluation of the categories. Just based on the grades, the structure of the ratings that they're getting.
Well, we don't get to see the data itself, right? We just get the final grades, and it's you're basically asking everyone to just review their employer.
Right.
So,
which is a tough thing to do.
It is definitely even when you're told it's anonymous, you don't necessarily want to be honest.
That's right. You don't know if is it really anonymous.
Right. I've had those come across before. Hey, how do you think your boss does? Is he listening?
Wonderful. Yes. He's amazing.
Right.
She's never been better.
Right. He is not at all abuse overtime rules. Okay. So that was the only other thing we had on the list.
We're not 100% sure what time we're at because we had some technical difficulties you guys won't hear, but we're not 100% sure how long we've been talking.
I'm trying to do. I think technically,
I can tell you're trying to do the math in your head there. I know.
Yeah, a little bit. I think we might have 5 minutes. This might be a shorter episode by 5 minutes. If so, guys, I want to apologize.
We don't really know.
It's Dave's fault.
We don't really know how long it is.
No, we'll find out. Well, I'll find out when I edit it all.
That's right.
So
we'll know tomorrow. We'll all find out together.
Right. Just blame the little balding Italian over here. That's all. That's fine.
Look. People from Philadelphia aren't too bright, and
I get you. Yeah. I'm just a product of the system over here. That's all.
That's exactly right.
It's only the national headquarters for the largest internet provider in the country, which
doesn't matter. It's still Philadelphia.
I know. They have very old technology there.
But part of the problem, I think my extender has gone bad right now. Yeah. So I think I need to be up here for a little bit until I get that ironed out.
I have a weird thing with my Wi-Fi, but it's too nerdy. I don't want to get into it on the show.
Yeah,
it's
please
just back.
You're gonna put me to sleep.
Yeah. All right, guys. Okay. Enjoy the combine this weekend. Just if you don't want to leave your house, just sit there and watch dudes run and do underwear Olympics.
Many years.
Yeah.
I've done that most years, I would say, to be fair, which is really nerdy.
I mean, Steve, it's a reason for you to not leave your house.
I don't need a reason to not leave my house.
but now if someone asks you why you didn't leave your house, well, I had to watch the combine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've been there. All right, guys, enjoy it. See you later.
Later.